Landed back in Paksay and went into the customer shack and told Tall Man, who was in charge of that area and responsible for it, what had happened. And he said, "Oh, there's no weapons there." I said, "Well, how about you go out and argue with my loadmasters? They saw it." And he said, "Oh, no, if it makes you happy, I will have them sweep the area." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. And once they sweep the area, when I go back, I'd like some T-28s for high cover." And he kind of grumbled about that, but okay, no problem. Went back out to the airplane and sat around there for about a half an hour, and he came out and said, "Oh, no, the area is clear. You're all set to go." Well, I had a good feeling that he was lying through his teeth on that. But okay, I figured I can outsmart these little guys on the ground with they got a big weapon. I think I can fool them. Took off out of there, listened to the choppers going in and out of the same site. No problem. And just to be safe, I asked them to throw smoke grenades out in the drop zone where they wanted the cargo. And they began doing that. And I took the airplane right down to the top of the jungle and told Sam Pop and Boom in the back, "Open it up and be ready to drop. I will keep it slow enough so that you won't get any buffeting back there. And hang on, because it might be a wild ride on the way out." And came up to the area where I could see the big bubble of green smoke coming up. Got within about a half a mile of it. Pulled up so I'd have 400 feet for the altitude over the drop zone so the chutes would have enough altitude to deploy. And as I did, they nailed me. First thing that happened, I could feel a stinging blow through the yoke, and it turned uselessly in my hand. No aileron control at all. I still had elevator, but the airplane was rolling to the left into the jungle. To stop the roll, I pulled the power completely off the right side and buried my right foot in the rudder, and she slowly staggered back around to where I could turn a little bit to the right. And the thing was shaking like hell, and I was down to about 90 knots. Well, this is getting pretty critical. But I was getting out of the area, and one of the helicopters that had been standing by got on the radio and said, "You're trailing fluids." Well, I told the co-pilot to go back in the back and take a look and see what the damage is if you can. The kickers had closed it up and tied the load back down. And he came back up after I punched him in the arm to get him awake. He was scared to death. And he said, "There's big holes in the right nacelle tank," and I could tell that because the fuel gauge was going down rapidly, a 700-gallon tank. And also there was a lot of broken metal in the horizontal stabilizer on the right side. Well, that was probably because I was getting buffeting and my rudder pedal was kicking at me a little bit. Okay, now there's a decision to be made. Shall we try to get it back to Paksay with minimum fuel over more gun sites? Or think about putting it on an old Japanese airstrip that was about 15, 20 miles away, all overgrown from World War II. But it was a clear area and might be a viable touchdown spot. But the elephant grass there was about 6 feet high, so I didn't know what was under it. Still gaining altitude, which is a good sign, and the choppers were staying in the area just in case we had to go out for a walk, in other words, bail out. Got to the site, I had about 2,000 feet of altitude, and she's looking pretty good, so I told the crew we're going to go ahead and bail out of this airplane. Told the co-pilot to go into the back with the loadmasters, prop the troop door open on the right side of the airplane. And when I ring the bell, you guys jump. And there'll be choppers down there waiting for you. Air America choppers, H-34s. And I had it lined up and was about to ready to ring the bell, and the co-pilot came back into the cockpit, climbed up the ladder into the cockpit. Well, he wanted his survival vest. Well, he grabbed that and went back down the ladder into the cabin, and I told the kickers, Sompop and Booma, take it away from him and throw it out the door, because if he tries to put that on, his parachute won't open. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I did. And they took it away from him and threw it out the door. Lined up again, and she's shaking like hell, and about ready to ring the bell, and they got on the intercom. They said, "He get away from us," and he was up in the cockpit again. He wanted his camera. Well, he bought a nice Nikon camera in Hong Kong, and it's something that was a kind of a treasure. But when you bail out of an airplane, you can't hang on to that thing. It's going to get ripped out of your hands. And that's how he got a cut on his forehead when I backhanded him. And he went back down the ladder the hard way, and back into the back. And I told Sompop and Booma, I don't care what you do next time, throw him out. And they rogered that. Lined her up again, and rang the bell and looked back down into the cabin. And Booma went first. He went right out the door. And when co-pilot leaned over to see how he'd done, Sompop wrapped his arms around him and took him out the door. Well, there was a little more drama into his exit. He'd never jumped before, and he'd seen in the movies how they come in with their hands and pull the ripcord out sideways. Well, it's in a metal conduit going over your shoulder, and it can bind that way. You want to grab it and go straight down. Well, he didn't, and he floundered around trying to deploy his chute for a while and ruined his underwear. At chopper outside in the area, he called, "We got 3 good chutes." And I said, "Well, you guys hang on. You're going to have the 4th one here in the next pass." And I turned her around again and lined up for where I wanted to go, locked the controls, shut down the right engine and right jet, and so there was plenty of drag over there so it wouldn't start rolling with me when I let go of the rudder pedal, and went down the ladder, grabbed the static line so I didn't fall and break a leg on the way out, and went to the back and swung out the troop door. I had skydived before and back in the United States, and first thing I did, I got into a body position that would allow me for more forward speed so I could get closer to where I wanted to be when I pulled the ripcord. And I watched the airplane go away from me. I never killed an airplane, and this was the first one. And I was kind of watched her die, and she hit some low scrub and blew up because there was still ammunition on board. But I was now pretty low, so got into what they call a parachute landing fall position, knees together, knees bent, and arms up on the risers. Hit and rolled, and put the ripcord in my shin pocket along where I had a 38 caliber Derringer, and I could hear a chopper coming for me. Well, there was a little clearing not too far from where I was in a little low scrub. Went over to that, and Bob Thoreau was the captain on that thing, and he flared the H-34 like he was going to land in this little clearing, but his tail rotor hit the trees and showered me with debris. Well, that didn't make me happy, but he picked back up into a hover and dropped the sling down, and I rode the sling up into the cabin. And there I was, off hostile territory and in the cabin of a chopper.